everyone, I'm Doug with B&H, and today we have a special treat. This is the new Canon 1DX Mark II, and with me today I have two guests from Canon, Wasim and Brent. They're here to talk to me about the camera. So let's begin. In 30 seconds, what is the rundown, the newest features with this camera, things that people wanted? How did Canon deliver?
Well, from a stills perspective, we've increased the autofocus capabilities of this camera. We've increased the resolution. At the same time, we've also increased the speed of the camera in a number of different ways and added some GPS functionality. So all around, it's taken the best parts of the 1DX and improved them.
And what about video? There's a lot going on here.
That's right. We've got 4K video now up to 5994p. We have full HD to 120 frames per second and dual pixel CMOS autofocus. It works in either full HD or 4K video. And to aid you with getting dual pixel autofocus correct, a touchscreen LCD display.
Wonderful. So now, new sensor. That is the meat here. So what's in the new sensor?
Well, it's 20.2 megapixels, so you've got an increase in resolution there. But we've also, using gapless micro lenses, the noise performance will be better. So you'll get lower noise across the board.
Higher ISO, right?
Yeah, you've got a 409,600, so you've got one full stop higher than the 1DX. And so we're confident also that you'll see lower noise across the board at all levels. Digic 6 Plus processors, help with the image processing there too. So you'll see when you're shooting JPEGs too, the image quality will also be improved as a result.
Now this is a fast shooter, so tell me just how fast the burst rate in this camera.
14 frames per second in with the viewfinder with full autofocus and auto exposure, 16 frames per second with the live view, and you've got locked autofocus, locked auto exposure. That's enabled by the use of a CFast card, which will help with that speed and the buffer and the new battery as well. Show
me, how fast does this go?
Well, 14 frames per second sounds pretty much something like that. And you'll notice too, I haven't stopped.
That could get obnoxious, but in the most glorious way possible. So getting back to video, 4K is everywhere, it's huge. What does that mean for this camera?
We're all being asked to deliver in 4K, it seems these days, right? And this camera has, like I said, 4096 by 2160. It's the DCI or Digital Cinema Initiative format. So if you're delivering for, say, UHD 4K, you're going to be cropping the sides a little bit. It also has the 4K frame grabs, so in playback, in camera, while you're playing the clip, you can scroll through it a frame at a time, save that particular frame directly to the card.
And that's how many megapixels is that?
That's an 8.8 megapixel, but it's still a full 4096 by 2160 JPEG. So very nice and easy to share.
How is the video recorded for this?
Okay, so in 4K, you're recording motion JPEG, which is essentially making an individual JPEG for each frame of video, right? In the full HD, you have a couple of choices. We have, as a codec, it's MPEG-4 AVCH.264, but it's wrapped as either .mov files or as MP4 files.
You have a choice, yeah.
And those, by the way, all the way up to 120 frames a second, 5994p in both MP4 and .mov, but you have the choice in .mov of all-I intraframe or IPB interframe recording. The MP4, for instance, is only an IPB light, and that's an interframe recording.
Good, very good. That'll save, I know the quality in that is enormous, especially for all-I.
Yeah, and if you need to share the file, then the MP4, you can share it directly from the camera if you have a wireless file transmitter attached.
Great, and just to make sure, because a lot of people like to know this, the scaling on those images, that's all done for the 4K, it's a complete downscale. It's not,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, the 4K is derived directly from the center of the sensor.
So there is no...
It's basically, exactly, so it's basically a 5400 pixel by, say, 3600 pixel sensor. Yeah. So 4096, 2160 coming directly from the center. As far as the full HD, it's using the full width of the sensor. And while Canon doesn't release exactly how we're getting video from the full frame sensor down to 1080p resolution, it's a very high quality image and delivered at very high bit rates.
So now the autofocus is vastly improved here in two ways. So we have 61 points on this camera, which is the same as the 1DX, but why shouldn't people be turned off by that number?
Well, 61 points is it's the same number. 61 points, 41 of them are cross-type, but it's a completely overhauled system. For one, it can go down to -3 EV, which is basically a landscape that's maybe lit by moonlight, so a much better low-light autofocus. It's got at f8, so an effective f8, that's maybe a 600 millimeter with a extender on it. You can get all 61 points are now autofocusing versus just the center on the 1DX. You've got illuminated red autofocus points, which is something our users were asking for so they could see the points better in the dark. And you've got a new wider spread of points across the frame and large zone AF carried over from the 7D Mark II. And finally, the last improvement there is the new metering sensor, 360,000 pixel RGB plus IR metering, enables better tracking autofocus, can actually track faces with the viewfinder autofocus.
Okay, so now we also have with this camera dual pixel AF, which has been in some Canon DSLRs for a while now, but this is the first full frame. What else is new about the dual pixel AF in this camera?
Well, one of the important features, Doug, is that you can now control the dual pixel CMOS AF from the touchscreen. You also do subject tracking. The AF has sensitivity adjustments, and whereas like the 7D Mark II offered maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 settings, this now has 10 settings of responsiveness, sensitivity, so you can adjust it, make the operation of the camera a lot easier.
So what completes this camera? There are some new accessories, right?
Yeah, so one of the new accessories here, we've got a new battery and charger for it, the LP E19 battery. And you'll see that it's different from the old one that's gray with a red stripe, so you can quickly tell them apart, because you can actually use those older batteries, the LPE4N and LPE4, on this camera. The advantages of the new battery, it's got 10% greater capacity, and it also enables that faster burst rate. So instead of, if you use the older battery, you'll get 2 frames per second less than what the camera's rated at with the new battery.
But it's excellent that you have that compatibility still.
Yeah, so for people who've got hordes of the old battery, they can still use it in this camera. And shipping at the same time will also be a new wireless file transmitter. And this new wireless file transmitter, the WFT-E8, will enable it to not only have faster transfer rates, 430 megabits per second, but you can enable functionality of getting control of the camera through your browser, but you can also get, and this is very exciting for anybody who's used any of our cameras with a smartphone, that new WFT will enable a connection to our Camera Connect app on the smartphone. But on that subject of burst rate too, the reason we went with CFast in this camera, we have a CFast slot and a CF slot, so you can use both. But the CFast card enables that really fast burst rate. So if I'm doing this and I'm shooting in JPEG, I could do that infinitely. And if I'm shooting RAW, I can get 170 frames. Versus on the 1DX with the CF card, I can get 38 frames. And so 170 frames works out to about, at full speed, about 12 point something seconds versus 3 and change on the 1DX. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, no, really.
Well, and the CFast card is also what enables the high frame rate recording for 4K video. And 4K video clips are not limited by clip duration. So you could conceivably record 4K for $29.59. You would only be limited by the capacity of the card, which the CFast cards have higher capacities.
So everybody, I hope you enjoyed the presentation here. Thanks Wasim, Brent, for showing me the Canon 1DX Mark II. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.